Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Let me show you this layout real quick. We're going to focus on building this in today's training. It might look kind of simple. You're like, Kevin, I'm just going to throw 5 images in there and call it a day. I'll just change the height of them and whatever. No. It's not how we're going to do this. First of all, each of these devices that you're looking at is 3 separate images. The shadow, so I'm going to highlight, if I can, with my mouse, this shadow area on every device. Okay, that's one image. Then you have the frame of the device, right? That's actually a second image. And then you have the screen of the device, which is a third image. So we need to figure out how we're going to layer those and position them one on top of the other and how we're going to manage their sizes. And then we're going to have to figure out how to use Flexbox to its full potential to get this nice rhythmic kind of layout where you have the center one is a little bit bigger than the others. And then the 2 on the side are perfectly vertically aligned with the middle device, only to have the ones on the end perfectly aligned with the bottom of the container. So there's some Flexbox stuff that we're going to work on. That's going to be fantastic. And then we might even turn this whole thing into a component. There's some accessibility things to keep in mind here. Let's go ahead and dive in. It's going to be one of those trainings where you learn a lot in a single training in a relatively short amount of time. So hit the like button, drop a comment below, and let's go ahead and dive in. I'm going to pull up Etch real quick, and I'm going to add a section to the page. We're not doing the entire hero. We're just doing this like device grid, okay? So I'm going to say device grid. Oh, I don't want it to be all caps. Device grid. And then I'm going to add a div to this, and I'm going to call this div my device. And what I'm creating is like a little grouping context, so that I have a single thing, because this is one device, as we discussed, is made up of multiple images, right? But I want one kind of grouped context to be able to drag around or insert or save as a component or whatever. So I'm just using a div, and I'm going to call it device. And then I'm going to drop 3 images in, 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to call this my shadow. Remember, we said the shadow is 1 image. Then my screen is actually going to be sandwiched in the middle. And then I'm going to have my, what are we going to call this? How about we call it a frame? So I'm going to have my frame. Now, the shadow and the frame are just purely decorative here. They don't really mean anything. I don't really want them to be interpreted by screen readers or anything else. So I'm going to put a roll of none on both of these. And I can do this with Etch's quick add attribute bar. So Command Enter, and I can just put roll equals none. I'll copy that to my clipboard as well. And on the shadow, I can do the same exact thing. And you'll see it putting that in the HTML down here. I also don't want my mouse or anybody's mouse really to interact with those things. So what I'm going to do is let's add some classes first. So I'm going to hit Command Enter. We're going to call this device. I'm going to right click, create BEM classes. So now all of these have classes, which means on device shadow, for example, I can say pointer events none. I'm going to copy that to my clipboard. I'm going to go to the frame, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. And now the screen is really the only selectable or clickable element inside of this device. So I've got my device. I've got my 3 images. All I need to do now is get some sample data in here, right? So my shadow, I'm going to click here. I'm going to grab my shadow, say use this media. My screen, I'm going to click here. I'll just choose, how about this one? Use this media. And then frame, I'm going to click in and I'm going to use this frame. Now the frame is the borders of the device, but the middle is cut out. Okay, the middle is cut out. This is like a transparent PNG. You should probably use a WebP for this instead of a PNG and get the correct device size and all that. I'm not worried about performance right now. That's something for you to worry about when you execute something like this in real life. I'm just showing you how to do the CSS side of this and the layout side of this. Okay, so I'm going to hit use this media, and you're going to see that I have a shadow, which looks kind of funky, but it's all going to work out. Don't worry. And then we have the screen of the device, and then we have the device frame itself. And so what we want to do is we want to position all these things kind of like in a layer. All right. So we have a bottom layer, which is going to be the shadow. We have a middle layer, which is going to be the screen. We have a top layer, which is going to be the actual device frame. So the way I'm going to do this, I want the actual frame to control the dimensions of all of this, because that's the thing that actually looks like the device. And the screen and the shadow are just going to be a size relative to the frame. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. That's probably the best way to describe it. So shadow and screen are going to be sized relative to the frame. The frame is going to be the actual thing that controls the size of what's going on, okay? So the way that I'm going to do this is I'm going to go to device and I'm going to position this relative. So I'm going to say position relative right here. And you can see over in our panel, I could have done it right here as well. But you know, I prefer to write CSS, but you can do it in the panels if you want to do it in the panels. Position relative is going to allow me to position some of these things like the shadow and the screen absolutely, okay? Which is going to take them out of the stacking context, and it's gonna make all these things like mesh together kind of like a sandwich, right? So I'm gonna take the shadow where I have pointer events none, and I'm gonna say position absolute, and I'm gonna say width of 100%. So hey, be 100% of the device size, and then height be 100% of the device size here as well. And I'm gonna say that I wanna position it top and I wanna position it left 0. Okay, so just anchor it to the top left corner, okay? So there we go. We see we have a shadow is behind our screen right here. Now we want the screen to essentially do the same thing. So we're gonna say position absolute, we're gonna say width of 100%, we're gonna say height of 100%, we're gonna say left of 0, top of 0. Now we're gonna change these position coordinates in just a minute, but as you can see, everything is actually stacking on top. The device frame, I wanna do width of 100%, and we can do height of 100% in here as well, okay? And what I wanna do now is kind of put 2 devices in here, and I wanna work on my flex layout a little bit just to get it started so that I can start to see these things side by side and in their normal sizing, okay? So I'm gonna go up here to device grid. I know I'm moving a little bit quickly, but you can pause and rewind if you need to. I'm gonna select my device grid. I'm gonna hit Command Enter, and I'm gonna say device grid. Even though I'm not using grid for this, I'm just gonna call it a device grid. If you wanna name it something different, you're totally free to do that. I'm gonna say that this is display flex direction of row, and that's gonna put these things side by side, which is fantastic. And now if I duplicate again, it's gonna put 3 of them, and if I duplicate again, it's gonna put 4 of them. Okay, this is fantastic, right? The way flex works is it doesn't wrap by default, and so you're just gonna, if you could put 1,000,000 in here, it'll just keep making them smaller and smaller and smaller and making them fit side by side. I'm gonna show you a trick to manage where the middle one can actually be bigger than the others, and you don't have to mess with its height or dimensions or manage the dimensions of any particular device in here. It's really, really, really nice, okay? However, we're not quite there yet. Obviously, this is not looking like a screen inside of a device with a shadow. I put dimensions and sizings and all of that stuff just to get everything to stack and be the same size as each other. But now we have to do a little bit of fine tuning. Okay, the screen, if you think about the screen, it can't be as big as the device. It has to be like inside the little frame of the device, right? Okay, so what are we gonna do here? Well, I want to take the width of 100% and just subtract what I think is the kind of the size of the device frame. So I'm gonna say minus 30 pixels, and then you're gonna see it's asking if I wanna auto wrap. I'm gonna hit Tab, and it's gonna auto wrap that for me. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing down here, minus 30 pixels on the height, and we'll auto wrap that. And now you're starting to see the device, right? You're starting to see the device. What I'm gonna do now is I am going to, and really the device should be on top. And because I position these absolutely, and the frame is not positioned absolutely, we've messed up the natural stacking context a little bit. And so what we can do is we can position this frame relative, and now it's going to also like rejoin the new stacking context, I guess I should say. That's a little bit technical. That's a little bit hard to understand, but it is what it is. If you position the others absolute, the frame, which comes last, should be on top, but it's not until you position it relative, and then it will finally fall in line with the rest of them, okay? What I need to do now is I need to take this screen and I need to actually position it in the center of everything. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually remove left and top, and I'm just gonna say an inset of 0. And now I can actually use tricks like margin inline auto and margin block auto, and that's gonna center on both axes right here. In fact, can I just do margin of auto, I can. You could just do margin of auto. You could just shorten it up. You could just like, that's a lot less typing, right? Okay, so margin auto, put all of that in the middle. And I'm seeing that this is pretty good. The corners of the screen are kind of poking out here, but all we have to do is round those, okay? I'm just gonna use a little bit of a magic number just to cut that off because the device is being rounded. It makes sense that the screen should be rounded as well, but this is looking really good now. And what I wanna do is I wanna put another one in here. So I'm gonna grab one of the devices. Actually, you know what? I don't wanna do that yet. I want to make it a component. Why don't we turn this into a component? So we've got our device here. I'm going to go ahead and right click create component in Etch. And now my thing is a component. And all I really need an attribute for is the screen. So I'm going to add an image attribute and we're going to call this screen. Okay. And I can select a default, which is going to be this one right here. I'll use that media. I'll go ahead and hit save. And now I have this component called a device. And if you see, I can duplicate it and now I have 5 of them. This is really, really nice, okay? All right, let's just go ahead and hit save. Now, the one thing you're not seeing is you're not seeing the shadow. You're not seeing the shadow. And this is because I stole the shadow image from their site and they did some weird things with the dimensions of their shadow. It's not really, the image file is not really configured the way the image file should be configured. So you have to use magic numbers to kind of position it, which is a little bit annoying, but I'm gonna hit edit component right here and I'm gonna come in to my shadow and I'm just gonna say that the width on this is actually 160. I think I wrote it down. Like it's just the most ridiculous number. You shouldn't have to do this because you should format your images correctly. They didn't format their images correctly. So I'm gonna say 162% on the width and the max width, okay? I don't know. I don't even think I need max width. I don't think I need max width. I think it's gonna behave like that. I think this is 116. Let me double check. 116, okay? So we've got a width of 162, and I think I do need a max width on there. So max width of 162%, okay? And there you go. Now you see, we can see the image. It's just because the dimensions, they made the shadow a little bit too small, and you got to use the CSS dimensions to fix it. It's just dumb. They should have done it right in Figma to begin with, or wherever they made the shadow, okay? All right, fantastic. Let's go ahead and save that component. And now you see, I mean, guys, let's check this out on the front end real quick. Let's just take a little trip to look at this. Look at this on the front. I mean, it's looking fantastic, right? All we have left to do is, well, a couple things. Number one, we need to make the middle one bigger. We need to make the outside 2 align at the bottom of this container. And then we have to deal with mobile. And then we're going to be done here. And then you're going to learn all the things that you've learned, okay? All right, so what I'm gonna do here is, and I think I could do this probably inside the component, right? So I am gonna say, I'm gonna go down to screen or, I'm gonna go down to device because this is really where all the magic is happening in terms of the sizing and positioning of the things in the grid. And we're gonna do a little bit of CSS nesting of CSS, which is super, super, super powerful. If you don't know what nesting is, you're about to learn, so pay attention, okay? So inside of this class called device, what I can do is I can target any of the ones I want. So for example, I can say nth child 3. And I could say border 5 pixel solid red. And look at how the third one, the middle one, has a border of 5 pixel solid red now, right? So I can just target it. This little ampersand, if you don't know what the ampersand means, it's like a placeholder for this class name. And so it's gonna attach whatever I have attached to the ampersand to the class name. So I'm basically saying device nth child of 3. So find the device nth child, I want the third one, okay? And so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna flex 1.5, okay, on the third one. Now, I want the normal, all the other ones, to be a flex of 1. So on the, and this is what's so powerful about nesting, all of your styles stay together like in one kind of componentized little instruction set, okay? So all of my devices, I'm gonna say be flex 1. This is kind of like, think of this as the size as a proportion of the grid. Like it's like 1FR in grids almost, like it's 1 fractional unit, let's say. And then if I take the third one using nth child 3 and I make it flex 1.5, it's gonna be 1.5 times bigger, or is that how the math works? I'm awful at math. It's going to be 50% bigger. I think is that correct? Is it 50% bigger? Okay, let's just go with that. Now, the question is, do I want it to be 50% bigger? The answer is no. I'd actually like it to be like kind of like that, right? Just like a little bit, like 15% bigger, okay? So that's about 15% bigger, or I guess it's exactly 15% bigger. And now what I'm gonna do is I am going to do the next thing before we exit this component, because I do have to do one thing at the grid level, but that's okay. I still need to take care of these outside items. I want those to be aligned to the bottom of their container, okay? So now what I'm gonna do is I am going to say, and inth, actually not inth, I'm gonna say first child, comma, and then the ampersand selector again, last child, and I'm gonna say align self end, and it's gonna push those down to the bottom. That's the first one and the last one, right? Okay? Now, here's the thing about this. Actually, I need to back up. We are doing this all wrong. I'm just thinking about it because we made this a component. We want to be able to use this device everywhere. So these kinds of instructions that actually are relative to this particular layout, this particular grid, we don't want, if I use the device anywhere else on its own, I don't want these instructions to apply, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove them from here, okay? I am gonna leave the flex 1 on there, but I'm just gonna save this component. I'm gonna come to the device grid and we're gonna nest inside of here and we're gonna just say, okay, take the device. Actually, I can just paste those instructions that I got right there. And I could say device inth child 3. And now this is all happening within the context of the grid itself, okay? So now I can use this component, this device component, anywhere I want, and these grid instructions, these layout instructions are not going to affect it. All right, so I'm just saying device first child, device last child, align self to the end, device in child 3 is gonna be flex 1.15. That's all happening in the context of this grid. And then I'm gonna say align items to the center, which is gonna take the second one and the fourth one and make sure that they're centered at all times in the layout. And now if we save and we go to the front end, so this is the power of Flexbox right here. This is the power of Flexbox. I'm getting very, very, very close. I mean, the only thing that I don't have, we look at theirs, okay, is the right screens in, okay? And their container is a little bit wider than my container, but this is all conforming to whatever the dimensions of your website is. So I'm gonna grab this and I'm gonna come in and look at this. Because this is a component, it's now exposing the prop that I made, the screen prop, and I could just come in here all day long and just very easily swap in unique images for these components right here. So I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna grab this one and I'm gonna grab this one on the end. And I think there's a little bit of, let me save, let me refresh, okay? Oh, you know what I didn't do? Dummy, I was a dummy, okay? I didn't link this up. I didn't click and say, okay, this is supposed to apply to what, right? So let's open this up and let's go to here. So the screen should actually be props.screen, okay? And I'm gonna go ahead and save that component. So I made the props, but I never linked them up. That was just an oversight on my part. So now when I actually do these props, we will be good to go. I don't think that's the right one. Which one do, oh, it's the screen one right here. Okay, there we go. Okay, and you can see there's a little bit of issue with the dimensions on some of these screens. So I'm gonna edit my component here and I'm gonna go down to my screen and I'm gonna say, you know, the height of 30 minus 30 pixels is not looking like it's working very well. So my magic numbers were a little off. And I'm just gonna say maybe minus 25 and minus 20 pixels. Okay, that might work well. And then maybe this 30, 40, okay, the width of minus 25, is that working well? Maybe this is 30. I'm just kind of looking at what's going on the screen and kind of adjusting these magic numbers a little bit. Okay, I think that's all looking good. Let's save our component. This is fantastic. Save, go to the front end. Look at this, look at this, look at this. Let's handle mobile. Let's handle mobile, okay? So I can just check my mobile real quick. There's a medium and there's a small device size. Oh, we can see that on mobile, we're actually, our little screen dimensions here How big did I make my screen? Edit component. Okay, let's go to screen, 100% minus 25 pixels. I wonder if that minus 25 pixels is not what we want. Maybe we just want to use a pure percentage. So 98% on that, that's what we want to do. We want to use a pure percentage for this. So the height, let's do 98% here. Okay. Let's come back into desktop. What's nice is that you can preview these breakpoints in Etch without leaving the code behind. Like the code sticks, and you could just check on what's going on with the actual canvas at any screen size. So the width of 98, I think we need like 96, 95, 94, 93, 92. Okay. This is very magic numbery, 97, 90, but that's what you got to do when you don't have the actual dimensions of things. How about 95? Looks good. 96. Okay. I'm noticing the bottom there is now perfect. This looks pretty good. 96 and 92. And now let's do a quick preview. Okay. Now it's the border radius causing us a problem. And let's do maybe a percentage on the border radius. Now we're good. Now we're good. Okay, we're golden. So if we just use percentages for all of these things, let's go back to here. Same result, right? But now it's going to scale way better, way better. Now what I want to do is I want to say, okay, on this breakpoint right here, 768, and I'm going to come in here to my device grid, and you can even nest media queries, right? So I can say at media, max width, 768 pixels. What do I want to have happen here? Well, I'm going to say device, first child, device, last child, and I'm going to say that we want to display those none, okay, at that device. Now, if I go back up to desktop, they're going to be there. But if I go here, they're not going to be there. And if I go down here, there's just going to be 3 of them. And by the way, you're wondering, like, why is that floating in outer space? Okay, it's because there's no background color. So if I go background, base, ultra light, actually, let's do ultra light. Let's just do BG ultra light. There's a background color. And now you're going to see, okay, there's actual like device borders here. Okay. And so that's what that's going to look like on mobile. And the only thing I don't like is that the gap is good here, but the gap is too big on mobile. We need to tighten that gap up on mobile. So I'm going to teach you something else. We're going to use a min function. And the way that we're going to use a gap with a min function. And the way the min function works is it accepts 2 values. We can do something like 2.5 VW for, it's like calculating the gap based on the device width. And what a min does is it actually sets like a maximum that something's allowed to be, okay? I can do something like 30 pixels. Okay, so 2.5 VW or 30 pixels. It's going to choose the smallest value, okay? So if I come down here, look at that. So now it's choosing the 2.5 VW because 2.5 VW at this device size is smaller than 30 pixels. But on the desktop, it's going to make it stop at 30 pixels, which is really nice, okay? So they get closer on mobile and they get a little bit further away on desktop. And it's just going to kind of fluidly manage that gap at everything in between. Okay, so I've got components here. I've got a device component where I have full control over all the HTML that's going on here. All the styling is handled with classes. These all go into a device grid. Like I could come down to another section somewhere else, and I could put in like 2 flex divs inside of this container right here. And I could say another grid. And I could say display that as a grid template, columns of grid 2, like that, okay? And then in this right here, I could just say, you know what? I want a device in there. And there's a device. And then I could say, all right, I want it to have this screen right here. Boom, boom, boom. Now it's got that screen. And I'm just able to put devices anywhere I want now because I've made this a component, super handy. And it's got an exposed prop called the screen of the device. And this is just really, really, really fantastic, guys. Really, really, really fantastic. If you liked this training, I want you to hit like. I want you to hit subscribe. If you have any questions, I want you to drop them down below. I will answer them. I will reply to them. I hope you learned some stuff in today's lesson about flex, about absolute positioning of elements, about stacking context of things. There's a little bit tricky. Like there's some tricky stuff going on here. We talked about CSS nesting. Like I said, this is one of those lessons where you're going to learn a lot in just a little bit of time. And if you need to rewatch this, go rewatch it. If you need to pause, if you need to rewind, if you need to go slow at a couple parts, do that. Do that. Use this to your advantage. But I'll be back very soon with another training. So stick around. I'm out. Peace.